What's going on, everybody? We are standing in front of the OneLaser XRF, part of the X Series. So we're going to talk about alignment, and that's beam alignment, checking your mirrors, just making sure that everything is working the way that it should. And this is going to be really for any CO2 laser that you have out there in a gantry style. Sometimes there's slight variations to how the mirror knobs work and make adjustments, but ideally it's pretty much the same. So follow along. We're going to do this quick because there's a lot of videos out there about alignment, but we're going to go through the quick methodology, show you some examples, and move on with it. All right, so first things first, you just kind of want to look at the tube, make sure everything's sitting in there right. I know I've seen some of these where like this mount right here is, the tube is like sitting up high out of it. But you can see how mine is pretty much pointed straight into that first mirror. We're also going to want to make sure that all the mirrors are secured and in where they're supposed to be real quick. So let me pull you around to the front where you can see some of the other mirrors, and I can show you what that looks like. So the mirrors on this machine are pretty quick and simple. There is a locking thumb screw right here. You loosen that up and you will see that these mirrors just pull right out. There are not really any other machines out there like this where you can just pull the mirror in and out real quick. So you just slide that in and then make sure that's locked down. Doesn't have to be overly tightened. You want it tight enough that it's just finger tight. You don't want to put too much pressure on that mirror. Other machines are a little bit different. They have locking retainer rings on the back side. But really, you just want to make sure that those mirrors are nice and tight and they're not just wiggling around, bouncing around, and that the beams are actually going to be able to hit it. So that's the same thing on all of them, like this mirror right here. You can actually go and you can undo that, pull that out there too. So let's go ahead, let's fire the machine up, and we'll actually start looking and testing some beam alignment. Okay, so the first test that I do anytime I'm doing alignment on any machine is just testing the most radical points. So that's always going to be closest to your laser source and farthest away from your laser source. So in this case, my beam comes from the back left corner. So back left corner compared to the front right corner. And that's going to be your two most dramatic spots. And I start right at the laser head. So I'll put it on here. Just get yourself some tape, whatever masking tape. Sometimes it's helpful to double it up if you have a higher powered laser. But yeah, so we're going to throw that right there. And for this procedure, we are going to ignore the red dot. I don't care where the red dot is. That is independent of the actual laser beam. So like I said, we're going to go to the back left. So all the way that way, all the way that way. And we are going to pulse the machine. So mine pulsed, and keep in mind, I've turned off some sensors so I can show this to you. Yours will likely have to be pulsed with the lid closed. So let's take a look at our pulse. So it's just a light pulse, so I'm going to hit it one more time just so we can make sure we can see it well. All right, there we go. So tapped it a couple more times and you can really see that pulse now. So now I come to the front right. We can look at that pulse, and ideally what I like to do is go ahead and mark with a Sharpie, kind of like a crosshairs or something, so that way you can identify which pulse is the first one and which one is the second one. So hang on tight, I'll grab a Sharpie and mark that. All right, so you can see I did kind of a crosshairs through it, so I know like, hey, this right here is the first pulse. And that's the one that I need to reference. So marking the second pulse then gives us reference compared to the first one as to where we need to go or how things are going. So let's go ahead and, oh, I got my tape stuck under there. So let's go ahead, we'll pulse the machine. Make sure your hands are out of here. You don't want to go lighting yourself on fire. So I'll go ahead and pulse. And mine, you can see, is lighting the exact same spot. So I'm well aligned. Let's go ahead, let's throw this machine out of alignment and show you kind of the procedures that you would need to do to get it into alignment. So if you did see a misalignment there in doing that one test, the first thing you'd want to go do is all the way back to the start. So making sure that you're hitting mirror number 1, which is pretty straightforward. Most of the time it is. If you're having, like, you can't see the beam at all, go back, look at mirror number 1, make sure that the tube is actually hitting the mirror. That's all you need. The next, you would actually go and then do the same test, just forward and backwards on your mirror number 2. So you would move forward, so you would pulse, make sure we're getting a good dot there, and then come forward. So you can see I've got that there. I would go and mark it just like I did that other one so I can reference the front and back. So looking at it and doing a pulse here. So as you can see, that one all landed on top of each other. That's what you want, is one on top of the other. I'm not really worried about centered at this point. So if you're going to adjust from this section here, 1 to 2, all of your adjustments happen at mirror number 1, and you use those thumb screws to make an adjustment. And then if you have any adjustments that you need to make here, it's going to be on this one. So if you're pushing to mirror number 3 that's on top of the laser head, all your adjustments are made here at these thumb screws. And then as you get into mirror number 3, depending on what machine you have, how it works, you have different options to make adjustment. This one, it's dialed in so that way if you can get center left to right here, really you're just tilting the mirror left and right. All right, so let's talk about your adjustment screw orientation. So you've got this guy and this guy that are really the ones that you want to work with. The middle one holds the mirror in, don't touch it. And then this one is a diagonal movement. I don't ever touch this one unless I get to the very end, and I absolutely cannot get it with these two. So this one down here is going to affect your left and right. This one right here is going to affect your up and down. Granted, there is some variation at an angle as you adjust these, but for the most point, it is up and down, left and right. And I like to think of it as you are pushing against the mirror or you are pulling the mirror back. So as you screw it in and you go clockwise, it pushes the mirror, and then so if that pushes the top of the mirror, it pushes your beam down because it's angling down. And then this one over here on the left, and it does your left and right, it is going to push your mirror and it will then push the beam to the right. Or if you unscrew it, it will pull the beam back to the left. And so that's because, clockwise, that screw is pushing against the mirror. Going counterclockwise, it's letting the mirror come back. All right, so I have now intentionally thrown this section, so mirror 2 to 3, out of alignment, so that way we can get it back dialed in. So like I said, ignore the red dot, but we're going to test our closest, then to our farthest, and make adjustments in the far point. So we're gonna run this all the way to the left, and we're gonna hit some pulses. Okay, I can see some smoke. We're gonna back it up. So there you can see there is my first pulse, and then I'm gonna go ahead and mark that and get you back. Okay, so there's our first pulse, and now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do our next one. Okay, so you can see in this, I've now got a pulse that is dead center of those marks, and then one that is up and to the left. So now what I want to do, since I need to come to the right first, I do these one at a time. So I'm going to move right and then I'll move down. So our right is going to be this guy here. So I've got to push it against the mirror. So I'm going to go clockwise, push it against the mirror to then push the mirror to the right. So we're going to make an adjustment. And I'm just going to pulse again right in this spot and see where I'm at. So it looks like I'm getting closer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go and throw another piece of tape over this. I'll be able to slightly see where things are underneath it, but it gives me a new spot to shoot against. So this is harder to see in the camera, but I can actually still kind of see my Sharpie underneath. So I'm going to keep working here, and we're going to keep referencing back and forth. But now I'll shoot this, and I can see that I am much closer to the center left to right of my head there. So I'm going to make another adjustment, just a little bit, and pulse again. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move down a little bit. So I'm now going to use this adjustment screw, and because I'm a little high, I need it to push down, so I'm going to screw this in clockwise, so that way this pushes against the mirror and angles the mirror down. And these are just small turns. We're just finessing this down until it gets right. Okay, so now that we've got kind of a rough spot again, we're going to go ahead and we are going to move this tape up just a little bit, so that way I got some fresh landscape there, and we're going to go and do a comparison again. Go left to right. All right, so we're pulsing. We got a good mark there. I'm going to go ahead and give myself some crosshairs. And we're going to pulse again. So it looks like I am still high. So you can see this black mark right up here, a little bit higher, up this way. I want to come down just a little bit more. And then you can pulse again just to kind of see where things are at. I'm getting pretty dang close. So now I'm going to go ahead, new landscape, and we're not even going to do any crosshairs. So I'm going to come over here, pulse, and then we're going to go ahead and pulse again. All right, so I'm still a little high and to the left, so I'm going to do a little nudge down. And then I'm going to do a nudge to the right. Okay, getting a little closer. Then we're going to do the thing again. Left. Pulse. And I pulse a couple of times just to get, a good dot. And so there you can see there's a pulse there. And then all right, I'm pretty much dead on top of that one. And then as I push in here, I can see that I'm pretty much centered going straight into here. With these machines, they're setting it up pretty Loctite in the back, so that way you're gonna be in a good spot going all the way around. But you do want this spot to be going in pretty dang centered. If you don't have that, you probably need to do some more adjustments back at the tube to make sure that that is coming in line. And as you make adjustments back there, it will affect your final spot up here. But where we've got that centered now, this mirror has very little adjustment, and so I'm not too concerned. I'm pretty sure we're good here. But as you could see, if I pulse here, my red dot is not perfectly aligned with where my pulse is. So I can adjust that, I can make some movements, but ultimately there's some adjustments or some convergence that happens when it goes through the lens. But you can see if I was to go off of my red dot, it does not look centered in the mirror or in the lens, but the beam actually is, because it is a little bit higher, it hits higher and then hits more towards the center. So if you want to adjust that red dot, on this machine, it's actually done just in the back. You'll be able to see where that red dot is, and it has its own adjustment screws. So the last part of alignment is usually your vertical alignment. And on this machine, because there's such little adjustability, there's likely less, it's likely less that it's going to be this issue. But what I like to do is I'll actually pull the lens out, so that is not a factor. And I'm just going to shoot the beam down to the actual material or the bed itself at a couple of different heights. So I'm actually taking the lens out and I took the nozzle out, so that way it's not in the way. So if we go and we're going to adjust the machine down so that it is pretty dang close, because what I'm going to look for here, which is different than other machines, is that it's hitting somewhere center of that circle down there. Because the lens is actually sitting in here and it's not the bed that's going up and down. Your mirror stays, put, so there's not a whole lot of divergence here. So I'm going to go ahead and pulse. And I can see right there, it's a little bit hard to see because of the angle, but that is pretty dang center right there in that spot. So I'm not too worried about it. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of adjustment that you can make on this machine, just a little bit using the screws that are in the back of here holding this on. But if you can avoid it, I would probably avoid trying to mess with this thing because there is such little adjustment in it. Another way that you can test whether the beam is hitting center towards where the lens is by just putting a piece of tape right in here. Lens is out, it's sitting down here, and then putting the tape right here and pressing into it so you can see where that circle is, and then going ahead and pulsing there. So as you can see, I am pretty much dead center of that circle. So I'm going to get a good spot right in here, because ideally you're going to get your most power by hitting the dead center of that lens. And you could do that at multiple heights if you wanted to. You could go ahead and roll it down and then hit it again, and I'm still hitting dead center. But there's a quick glance at alignment. I hope that that helps you and gets you aligned if your machine is misaligned. But really just start off by checking it. Check that back left corner, front right corner, and see if those look good. If those look good, you're probably in a safe place, unless you're having some kind of cut quality issues. Then there might be more to look at. But that's all I'm going to cover here, just to give you a highlight of what you need to do just to check your beam alignment. And after you're done with all that, please make sure you go and you clean your mirrors. You've been burning some tape, things get gross. Clean your mirrors, make sure that everything looks good, clean your lens, so that way you're getting the optimal power out of all of that. I hope that this video was helpful. I know that it's short, but there's a lot of alignment videos out there. This just helps to show some of the specifics for this machine. If it was helpful, please give it a like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.